Welcome to the Rusted Garden Show, episode 2. Today we're going to talk about building your own grow light stations. We're going to build a bigger one out of the 4-foot tubes, and I'm also going to show you how to build smaller ones in case that meets your need. But the whole key is how can you build this in the most inexpensive way as possible and still get great transplants. These are tomatoes. It's too early here in Maryland Zone 7 to start tomatoes, but you want the germinating seeds to look something like this. Short and stocky, that means that you set your grow light station up right, and that means they have enough intense light to really grow into healthy transplants. We're also going to talk about seed starting. I'm going to show you how I overseed and start chives, oregano, thyme. We're also going to go over sage, lavender, and rosemary. If you subscribe to my channel, I'm going to be doing 2 or 3 episodes of the Rusted Garden Show every month, and you can find me on YouTube under The Rusted Garden. If you'd like to listen to the podcast, you can find the podcast on iTunes and also on Podomatic. And I want to thank my sponsor, All America Selections. They've been doing seed trials since 1932. They're a nonprofit organization. So for the last 85 years, they do seed trials throughout the United States and throughout Canada. And they basically test the newest vegetables out there, the newest flowers out there, and the best plants are declared All America Selection winners. And you can find the 2017 AAS winners at all-americaselections.org. It's a mouthful, but it's all-americaselections.org, and you can see what seeds won in 2017, and you can go all the way back in their database, to the 1930s. And I guarantee you're already growing some of the winners in your garden. Let's get to the grow lights. The most important thing about the grow lights is to have the right intensity of light. They have to be bright enough to make sure you don't get thin and leggy, spindly seed starts. And you want them to look just like this, nice and stocky for tomatoes. So you can do a setup with the 4-foot lights. This is what I recommend. I'm going to go over this, and this is what they look like. The bulbs are nice and bright. You can also, if you want something smaller, you can get a receptacle like this. This is a white LED, and that will be fine if you're doing a small amount of seed start. This is really set up for 4 of these flats right here. And you can also get the LED lights, which have a different color. Now, like I said, we don't need to worry about the different colors because we're not growing these for flowers. We're not growing these for fruit production. We are just growing transplants. Now, it's so easy. I'm going to show you how you set up one. Go to Home Depot or Lowe's, look for the 4-foot ballast. They're also called receptacles or fixtures, but it'll say electrical ballast. That's where the bulbs go. 4 feet, 2 bulbs go into here. And I recommend the T8 bulbs. And you just look on the box. It says right here, T8. Now, my older videos show the T12 bulbs. The T8s are more efficient. They're going to save you money in the long run, and they're a bit brighter. You can also buy T5 bulbs. They're better than the T8s. However, they're going to be more expensive, and they're not as easily found. Like if you go to Home Depot and Lowe's, you can find whatever you need for the T8. So that's what I recommend. They're a good balance of cost and effectiveness for growing your seed starts indoors. So you pull the receptacle out of the box, and it's going to look just like this. This is how it slides out. You undo the cord, drop it down. Now you want to match the bulbs. So this is a contractor pack of 12. So if you're going to set up a bigger system, don't want those to fall out, buy the contractor pack, because 2 bulbs are going to cost you anywhere from $8 to $10. The contractor pack of 12 was $29, so it's a big savings. But when you look on the box, you're going to see T8. It's going to tell you the lumens, 2,900. That's a great number for lumens, 2,900. You want somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000. And it's also going to tell you the Kelvin, and that's 6,500 Kelvin. That approximates daylight. That's exactly what you want. These plants are going to have enough intense light, and they're going to think it's sunlight, and they're going to do really, really well. So all you do to set up your grow light station is buy the ballast or the receptacle and the bulbs. And they just slide in just like that, and then you twist them. 1. 2. Now, these are set up and ready to be hung on your shelf. So you can get any kind of shelf. I have my shelving unit over there. You can, get a 3-tier shelf, a 4-tier shelf, a 5-tier shelf. Depends on how much you want to grow. Let me just set this up real quick and pretend that the shelving unit is right here for demonstration purposes. So you're going to hang your lights just like this. I recommend 4, and it'll be spaced out something like that. And these flats will slide under here just like this. That'll be plenty of light, and you just move them around a little bit each day when you are going down there and checking on watering. Plenty of intense light, and you really are able to get 1 flat, 2 flat, 3 flats under here. So this is 72, 72, and 72. That's a lot of seed starch. You may not want that, or you may not need that, but this is the setup for it. And these would just hang 1 to 2 inches above your seed trays, and that's all you really need. And as the plants grow, you would raise up the lights just like that. And the intensity it's plenty. Let me plug this in. Now the timer is really important because you don't want to have to be coming up and down the steps all the time, turning this on and turning it off. And even if you go away for a few days, you have a timer set up. This is an extension cord with the timer built in. It was about $20. And you just set it for whatever you want your lights to be on, and it'll take care of itself. It's a really, really great way to get rid of worrying about your seed starch. Just set it on the timer and let it go. You can buy different ones that are less expensive. These were 2 digital ones for $13. This was on sale for, I think, well, it was $20.99 regularly, but it's 50% off. So you can get any kind of timer you want. I highly recommend it. It'll make your life a lot easier. And you can set up a whole shelving unit of up to 8 lights with something, just like this. Now, let's cover before we get to the other types of grow light stations you can set up. How long you keep the lights on. You want to keep the lights on to make sure, again, and I want to stress this over and over again, that you don't get thin, spindly, leggy transplants. If you get that, it's really no point in growing them. So you want intense light. So when you plant your seeds, and I'm going to let's say tomato seeds, you plant your tomato seeds, they usually germinate in 5 to 7 days. So for the first 3 days, you don't need the light on. But you don't want to turn the lights on after they germinate because they're going to break through the surface, they're going to think that there's no light, and they're going to get real skinny and race to grow towards the sun because they're going to think they're in the dirt. So a couple days before they would germinate, turn your lights on 1 to 2 inches above the seed starts. It would look just like this. And you leave the lights on for 18 hours. So it's 18 hours on, 6 hours off, and you do that 5 to 7 days from when they break the surface until they establish themselves, and they look something like this. Once they get to this size, after about 5 or 7 days, you can set your timer to have either 14 hours of light or 16 hours of light. It matters less. The light intensity matters less once the plants are established. They stop growing because they've met the light, they start developing leaves. If they don't have enough light, that's when they keep stretching and stretching and stretching, and it causes a problem. But if you leave it on for 18 hours, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but that's the biggest mistake people make, is they don't give them enough intense light, and they get sad looking seed starts, and they're disappointed when they go out into the garden. All right, so you would set up your 4-foot lights just like this, hang them from the shelf, and that would set up the bigger system. If you want something smaller, because a lot of people tell me, well, I don't want to grow, 144 or, 215 seed starts. I don't need all of those. So what you would do, actually, if you were growing something, let's do it this way. If you just wanted to do 1 flat, if you wanted to do a couple of seed starts just like this container was $1. You can start 6, 12, 18 right in here. and this would sit on your shelf and the light would sit almost on it. That's about 2 inches away. This is a great way, and then again, you're only going to need 2 bulbs and 1 ballast, 1 receptacle here, and you could set them up all along here. So that's about 6, 12, 18 times 3, that's 54 plants that you can grow just like this, and that's a perfect setup too. Now some people say, well, I don't want to seed start them all in these small cells. Do I have to do that? And the answer is no. You could put them into bigger containers. So let's just say you wanted to grow something to size. You could get the bigger containers, just put the seed in here, but of course you're only going to have 3, and it would sit the same way, just like this. So that's a couple of ways that you can use the 4-foot tubes. Now if the 4-foot tubes are not something you want to use, let me just switch these out. You can go to the smaller receptacles just like this. These cost about $7 for the smaller receptacle. Let me plug it in. And you can get different bulbs for them. Now, because we're growing transplants, I just want to be clear again. Let's get those on. We don't need to worry about having red light, blue light, or anything like that. We're not growing for flowers, we're not growing for fruit. We just need the 5,650 Kelvin daylight to grow transplants how we want to grow them. This is an LED bulb that's red. You don't need that. If you want to spend money on it, they're effective. You can go ahead and use it. The LED systems are a lot more expensive. When you get the bigger square systems, they can be hundreds of dollars, but they're very effective. They're very bright, and they give you everything you need to grow. But I want to show you how you can do it in the most inexpensive way. You can get the white light, the LED bulb that's just daylight. This is about 1,000 lumens, and it's 6,500 daylight. These are going to clamp onto any kind of post you have, maybe on the corner of your stand or wherever you want, and then the seed starts are going to sit just like this underneath. Again, you don't need to get the red lights, the blue lights, because we're not growing for blooms, we're not growing for fruit or anything like that. These are the smaller setups. Altogether, I don't know, maybe $15 depending on what you buy. Now, if you don't want to set up the grow light station like I have over there on shelves, you can make something. And you can make something just like this out of a storage container. You can buy storage containers that have the opening in the front, and you can get a bigger receptacle like this one, a stronger bulb, and it goes in. Let me just show you real quick. You cut a square. I have a video for this, I'll link to it. But you basically cut out a square right here, cut a slit down there, and then the clamp just slides into here, and the top of the receptacle comes through here, and then the cord comes out. Just like that. And you can set the grow light box up this way, put your foil inside of there. The reflecting light from the foil won't burn your plants. Some people say that can happen. Not with these kind of lights. You can put something under your seed start so that they're closer to the light, and then this can adjust as they grow inside. I use this for a transplant box, so I seed start them over there on my grow light stands under the 4-foot bulbs, and then when the plants are bigger, I actually put them in here because the intensity of light doesn't have to be as intense when they're germinating. So I hold them inside of here and the bigger containers go in. But you can see the simplicity. This will give you some ideas of how you can set up grow light stations in your house that meet your budget. And then in a quick review, let me just cover. The T8s right now are the most economical and most prevalent in the United States. I know that I reach people throughout the world, but the T8 bulbs are the most economical. You can go buy the LED systems. They're much more expensive. They are effective. You can buy the T5 bulbs. They're a little more expensive. But if you want to get a nice mix of budget and effectiveness, the T8 systems work really well. And those smaller receptacles, like I was showing you, you have to go and buy bulbs like this, and they're not necessarily going to be 2,000, 3,000 lumens. So I'll talk a little bit about the trick for them. Before I get to that, I want to talk to you about cost. A lot of people say, well, what's the point of having the grow light box is set up or the grow light shelving set up if I'm paying a lot in electricity. And you're really not paying that much. I have some numbers here. So you can go online and you can go to any electricity wattage calculator. Just put in an electricity wattage calculator. You have to go to your state and you have to type in cost per kilowatt hour, cost per kilowatt. And that will tell you how much your state charges you. So for instance, in Maryland, the charge per kilowatt hour is 12 cents to 13 cents. So in the calculator, I put in how long my grow lights are on. So for this bulb here to be on for 16 hours, you put in 16 hours, that's how long it's on every day. You put in the cost per kilowatt hour, which was 12.5 cents, and then you put the wattage of the bulb in there, and it'll tell you somewhere on here, it says 23 watts. So I put in the calculator 16 hours, 12.5 cents, 23 watts, and then it tells me how much I pay for the month in electricity. So I'm paying 4.5 cents a day to run this light 16 hours, or $1.34 a month. That's not a lot of money. Now if we go over to the 4-foot tubes, I put that in too. If I have 4 bulbs on for 16 hours a day for 30 days, and I did 13 cents, that comes to $4.05 a month. So having the system like right over there set up, which I was demonstrating here, that's going to be $4.05. The electricity cost isn't as much as you think. Go ahead and find the electricity wattage calculator online and put in the numbers like I told you. All right, now you can cheat. So let's say you're doing a system like this where the lights are over it, it's not as intense. Maybe you have a bigger space right here than the light's actually going to reach. Just because it's winter doesn't mean your seed starts can't go outdoors. I put the other one away. Let me grab it real quick. So when you're seed starting, you can still use the outdoors. There's a whole process I'll talk about in other videos, and this is really important. When you're growing your seeds indoors, they don't have any understanding of what the sun is, seriously. So when you take these from being inside, nice and cushy, with just your indoor grow lights on them, they can burn. So if you take them outside, you put them into the full sun for 8 hours, right from here, the leaves are going to burn and you're going to damage your plants and you can kill them. So they slowly have to get used to the sun when you acclimate them, and we'll talk more about that. But a way you can toughen your plants up is these germinated inside. I can go ahead right now, it's 40 degrees out. Too cold for these to sit overnight, but with the sunlight out right now, put these outside, let them get some intense sun. That will make them stronger and stockier. That will get them used to the sun. And then before it gets dark out or before the temperatures drop, bring them back in and put them under your lights. So when you have a smaller bulb like this, and maybe you have a flat that is bigger than you wanted and your plants aren't looking as healthy as you want, go ahead and take the flat outside when it's 40 plus degrees, let it sit out there for a couple of hours and get some nice sun, and then bring it back in at night. On a cloudy day, don't put them outside. But you can use the outdoors and the indoors to really grow wonderful transplants. So I think I covered everything to give you a good sense of how you would build a grow light station in the most inexpensive way. Again, you don't have to worry about red lights or blue lights or anything like that. Just get the 5,000 to 6,500 K Kelvin rating bulbs, and you can have wonderful transplants and save yourself a lot of money. Let me clean this up and we'll get to the seed starts. All right, so let's get to seed starting. So I'm in Maryland Zone 7, and I can really start putting stuff outdoors in March. So I got a good 8 weeks before I can get my cool weather crops. Today we're going to start with the plants that you can start 10 to 12 weeks before they would go out into your garden. And that's really the perennial herbs like oregano and thyme. Lavender, rosemary grows slowly. You can do sage, parsley, and you can also do some perennial flowers, which I'm not going to do today. But if you subscribe to my channel, the Rusted Garden Show is going to cover everything that you start indoors in order. Next will be lettuces and cool weather crops, followed by tomatoes and peppers. So just real quick, in the last episode I showed you how to set up your seed trays and how you would do that, but I want to cover 2 things that are really important. Make sure you use dry starting mix from a store. Put it into a container, pre-moisten it, make sure there's moisture in it. Do not take anything from outdoors and bring it inside, because you're going to be bringing in larva eggs, insect eggs. You're going to be bringing in funguses and molds and all kinds of stuff. So you take something that's been outside in the cold, put it under the nice warm grow lights. You're going to get hatching eggs, you're going to get insects, you're going to get funguses, you're going to get disease. Start with the seed starting mix that you buy in a bag that's dry and pre-moisten it. Now, these starting mixes can come with gnat eggs. That's just a standard that seems to happen in many, many starting mixes. So boil water, pour boiling water into this, mix it with a spoon, saturate your starting mix, let that heat kill off the eggs, and when it's cooled down, go ahead and fill your trays. And then to fill your trays, I always want to show people, do not put dry mix in here. You're going to be disappointed if you do that. It has to be pre-moistened. Thumb pack it in just like that. You want a nice solid starting base. Fill it again, and this is what you're going to plant your seeds into. This is the perfect way to get them started. So we're going to start with some of the herbs. Now I do an overseeding method, which means like in here I'm going to grow chives. I'm not just going to put one chive seed in there. These seeds, when they fall off the flower in nature, hundreds of seeds fall on the ground. They grow right next to each other. So you're not going to just put one chive seed in. Open them up, and it might be hard to see. I'll try, but you know, they're not that tiny, but you're going to just take a pinch, that's 8 or 12 seeds, and I'll do it here so you can see, and 8 or 12 seeds into each cell. I'll try and do it quickly because we're going to go through different seeds here. 8 or 12 chive seeds, and I got too many. Let me put some down right there. So once they're on the surface, you're just going to use a pencil or a popsicle stick. You don't need to be perfect. Mix it down about 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 an inch. And this is what we're going to do with all the seeds today. But these are seeds, varieties, that we're going to start 10 to 12 weeks before they can go outside. They're extremely hardy. As they get bigger in these small cells, once you mix them in, just collect the soil and press them down with your thumb. You'll make nice the seeds will make nice contact with the soil, and this is what you have. Okay, we overseeded chives in there. We're going to get a label, make sure we put it on there, and it will slide right in there. If your grow lights are going to be bumping into that, just lay it down just like this. I would also recommend writing on a piece of paper what you have, because if these pop out for some reason, you're going to be disappointed not knowing what's growing. So we overseeded the chives, 8 to 12 in here. And again, subscribe, you'll see how these grow, you'll see how I transplant them, and you'll see how I divide them. So chives, again, 8 to 10 weeks. So we can go to the oregano, which is super fine seed, about the size, smaller than a pinhead. And you can see there's hundreds of seeds in there. Now, you could drop in one seed, but we're going to drop in probably 20 or 30 and just sprinkle them across the top of the seed starting surface. Really, 20 or 30 seeds into one of these little 1 by 1 inch cells. Let me collect the rest of the seeds here. And again, mix them in 1/4 of an inch deep. You don't have to go too deep with them. And the reason you're putting in so many is because nature kind of has designed these to grow next to each other. The root systems can get entangled. They can get really massive in these little cells, and they're really, really hardy, that we're going to actually start 6 cells of the overseeded oregano. And when these get to size, again, then you press them in. When these get to size, when they're about this big, we're going to divide them. Just tear them right down the middle, put them into transplant cups, something like this. So one will go into here. So these 6 will then be put into 12 pots like this. Now I have 12 plants of oregano, pennies to set this up. Maybe 50 cents, including the soil, including the plastic, and including these. And if you go and try and buy, you know, an oregano transplant this size, it's sometimes anywhere between $2 and $4. So we're going to get 12 for under $1. Now I also have a seed and garden shop that you can find at www.thefluorescent.com. therustedgarden.com, and you can find these for sale. You can find these for sale along with about 100 seeds, neem oil, calcium nitrate, all kinds of different things. All right, so we have the oregano set up. Same thing with the thyme. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Here it is. No, where is it? Here it is. So here's the thyme. Thyme is about the same size as the oregano. See if I can get the right amount of seeds this time, not to waste any. Really small, and they're just going to be sprinkled 20 or 30 per 1-inch cell in these 6 cell packs here. Just mix them in 1/4 inch again with your popsicle stick or pencil. Press them in. Nice contact between the starting mix and the seeds, and we drop in thyme. Now, I'll save you some time. Mint, we would do the same way. They're small seeds, maybe 10 to 20 in each one of them. Lavender, we have 2 kinds. We've got true lavender and we have Munstead lavender. This survives the winter in my area, the Munstead, so I like growing this, but I like the purple color more in this pack, so I do both. Lavender and rosemary seem to take a long time to germinate. Now, everything that I just planted here, the chives, the oregano, and the thyme should germinate between 5 and 10 days, depending on how warm it is. If your grow area under the lights is about 70 to 75 degrees, 5 to 10 days. If it's a little bit warmer, 75 to 80, much more, quickly actually. Get up to 85 degrees, they germinate really quickly. But you want to be around 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the lavender and the rosemary can take anywhere from 14 to really, I've had it actually go to 35 days before it germinates. It can take a long time. Put these in a refrigerator for 3 nights, let them get cold. It helps them be tricked into thinking they've gone through a winter, and then when they get into some warm ground like this, like your starting mix, they tend to germinate better. So rosemary. Now, rosemary gets to be a big plant, so theoretically you only want 1 growing in here, but because they don't germinate so well, you want to put 3 to 5 seeds. They're bigger. 3 to 5 seeds per cell. You can always divide them if you want. You can leave them together if you want. They take care of themselves. So 3 to 5 lavender seeds after they've chilled in the refrigerator for about 3 days. And again, you're going to mix these down. These are bigger seeds. They can go down 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. And when you're mixing them up like this, try and spread them out so that they're not all clumped together. This way, if you get more than 1 germinating, you can divide them and end up with 2 transplants. And lavender and rosemary, you can really start like 12 weeks before they're ready to go outside. They tend to grow slowly and take time to germinate. So that is the rosemary. And the rosemary seeds and the lavender seeds are pretty much the same, so I'm not going to do those now. But I do lavender, true lavender, and the Munstead lavender. 3 to 5 seeds right in there, and anywhere from, if you're lucky, 14 days to 28 days they're going to germinate. All right, so we got that. Now sage, these are bigger seeds, and they tend to actually germinate pretty well. You don't have to do much for them. I put 3 sage seeds. Well, let's see if I can get it open. 3 sage seeds per cell. They're bigger. And I drop them in 1 in each corner. And again, you could try 1, but if it doesn't germinate, you're sitting around waiting for something to germinate that doesn't. And you get so many seeds that if you have to, thin them out, that's okay too. If you keep your seeds in a Ziploc storage bag in the house, they can last, 3, some seeds will go even 10 years, so you can reuse them. So it's 3 sage seeds, and I press them in about 1/2 inch deep. And then just sprinkle a little more on top. and then press them in. Get the seeds to have good contact with the starting mix. That's your sage. That is set up. All right, the sage. Now, what I also like to grow, parsley, 3 sage just like the sage, okay? I like to stew my onions in these seed cells. Onions are pretty much indestructible, seriously. So if you go and you buy the sets, you buy the bulbs that, it's the little tiny onions, you put them in the ground, sometimes they grow and they produce a flower head. Because in theory, they're second-year onions. They've already bulbed, and their job as biennials is to grow flowers, produce seed, and then reseed. If you start them from seed, I found that you have much better luck getting nice big onion heads. So these are Walla Walla onions. They look just like chive seeds, they're related. A whole packet of seeds is going into 6 of these cells. That's, I don't know, at least 10 to 15, maybe 20 onion seeds per cell. And of course, they're not going to grow to size in here, but what we're going to do is we're going to grow our own onion bunches. They'll actually look a little bit like these chives, and then we're going to take them out. The root system is wiry, it's strong, indestructible, and we're going to break them apart into single onions, and this is how we're going to plant onions. So we're going to get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 to 80 onions out of here. And we're just going to let them get about this tall. We're going to have to keep them fed. I will show you how to do that in future episodes if you want to subscribe. But right now we're just getting everything started. You can really mix these down far, 1/2 inch, and then press it all in. And this is a great way to do your onion starts. I guarantee you'll get bigger and fuller onions by starting them indoors like this instead of using the little round onion sets. And let me just grab Walla Walla. I need bigger nails to be able to lift these off. So this is my first flat. So we have mint, thyme, oregano, chives, rosemary, lavender. Okay, and I almost forgot watering. We're not going to feed these right now. The plants will germinate and use their seed coat for fertilizer. So fertilizing will be in the next show. Watering. I don't want you to water on top. When you water on top, it splashes things around. It can splash fungus around. It can splash disease around. Bottom water. It's the easiest way and the cleanest way to water. Just take your 1 gallon container. If this had water in there, I would just pour this into about 1/4 inch depth of the seed tray. These cells have holes in the bottom. They'll absorb the water up. Just drop it in there. Let them sit for 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, whatever water is left, whatever excess is left, just pour it back into the container. Now, when do you water? That's going to vary depending on how hot your lights are, how much humidity you have where you're growing them. But when you're starting out like this, it's not going to be too often because there's no plant really using the water. This is how you figure out when you water. Your seed starting mix, when it has water in it, is dark, just like that. As it begins to dry, the top is always going to dry first. It'll get lighter, so that's dark and that's light, and then it'll look like this. When the whole top is all light, looks like the dry mix from your seed starting mix, that's when you're going to bottom water. Moisture will stay down here, so the top always dries first. That's your clue of when you want to water. Hope you enjoyed the show. Future episodes will really show you how to fertilize these plants, and it will really, again, like I said, take you through the entire process of getting them out into the ground. And then we'll get into maintaining your plants out in the garden, harvesting, all kinds of different things. Please check out my seed shop at www.therustedgarden.com, and thanks so much for watching.